Hey everyone, welcome to another Marvel Monday as we are still, buzzing with the excitement of the third episode of WandaVision that hit Disney Plus on Friday. I am Mac in my WandaVision t-shirt, and then I've got Bekah with me in her best 70s look. So before we get into WandaVision, Bekah is going to take us through a little bit of the Marvel must-haves from this week. What do we got this week?
So there wasn't a lot of new stuff being featured this week, and several of the items we have seen. But this S.W.O.R.D necklace, that's the big thing. I'll scroll through here really quick. We've got, of course, the Funko Pops. We've got Wanda with her little pregnant belly and her bowl of fruit. And
yeah,
then
I love that they included the fruit in that pop figure. I thought that was really funny.
Right? She's holding an orange in her hand. Like, yeah, that's so fun. And then, of course, we've got Vision in his 70s getup. So, yeah, he's rocking that look.
I wonder if we're going to get brand new pop figures for every episode, because that's a lot. That would be a big collection for this one show.
Well, I know we've seen like 6 or 8 of them already were teased quite a while ago as part of as a pre-order. So I don't know if there'll be more, but yeah, that would be a lot. But I'm guessing there's going to be more coming later on, either as new characters are introduced or now that we have a little more background on Geraldine, we might be getting some of those pops.
Yeah, as more characters become more involved, and especially if we get any other like actual Marvel characters. We know Monica Rambeau,
right?
But if anybody else turns out to be an actual Marvel character, maybe we see more of them.
Yeah, so I'm a little hopeful for that. And then, as we mentioned, the S.W.O.R.D necklace. There's actually 2 versions. This one that we're looking at right now is at Walmart, and I believe it. Oh wait, it just took me to. That's not where I wanted to go. I think this comes in at about $30, and then there's one from Rock Love, which I think is $99. And so this one's a little bit closer to what Geraldine Monica is wearing is wearing in the episode. They said the Rock Love said that they actually worked with Marvel for the mimicking this after the props that
that's awesome
were worn in the film. And then I just decided to feature one of these tote bags. Again, Zazzle, you can get a lot of different designs for mugs and blankets and bumper stickers. And so, yeah. And then, of course, we got just last week if you need a recap. And I think that's about it for this week's, at least what Marvel is choosing to highlight on their official must-haves page.
Yeah, it makes sense that there's a little bit less this week, given that we only got 1 episode as opposed to the 2 we got last week.
Right.
So,
yeah. So there you have it. Hi, Amy.
And then Kyle mentioned they just announced a Strucker watch.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. That could be Kyle messing with us, to be honest. I'm not sure. But I don't know if I would want a Strucker watch, to be honest. We'll have to see how it looks.
I did see something in last week's must-haves, but I couldn't find it anywhere. So I wasn't going to feature it if it wasn't anything, if it was just them teasing us like, hey, there's also this. But I didn't see anything for it. So it's very possible there's a Strucker watch coming.
Interesting. I wonder if we're going to get any, well, we'll get into what this week's commercial was.
Yeah, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on that because I don't have much insight on that one.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't either in the beginning, but we'll get into it. All right, so let's get into WandaVision, this past episode, which before we actually get started with the episode here, I noticed as we were starting it up, they added episode titles, which was interesting. Because before this, they were just listed as episode 1 and episode 2. Now we see that this third episode was called Now in Color. And then they went back and changed the first 2 to Filmed Before a Live Studio Audience and Don't Touch That Dial. So I'm interested to see, as this sitcom world sort of breaks down, are they going to change the episode titles? Are they still going to fit within the sitcom? Or I'm curious.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. They totally could change the titles. That would be interesting and kind of fun to go back and be like, oh, this one's actually now called, The Secret Revealed or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they sort of, break through into our reality and start changing things.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
we uh, we got another great intro and theme song, a 70s style theme song this time. I loved it. It's also last week it was the 60s theme that was stuck in my head. Now it's this one.
Mhm.
For several days now.
Yeah, it's a fun theme, definitely. I've watched it 3 times now, and yeah, each time I like it more.
Yeah. And the intro is really funny too, with Vision struggling to put together a swing set. And some other really funny moments in there as well.
Making, like, a dozen hamburgers on his grill
Yeah.
and just, like
Given and the fact that he doesn't eat food too, so that's interesting. Um, there was a moment in this intro that I thought might be a fun little Easter egg, but I looked back at it closer and I don't think it was. It's probably my own mind, trying to stretch things. It was he's holding a book about pregnancy, and it kind of looked like at first glance a Scarlet Witch comic book cover, but that's probably a bit of a stretch.
Mm, that
So
would
we can get into the episode here. Um, we meet a new character right off the beginning. Is the Doctor checking in on Wanda, and as Kyle pointed out during our Zacks of Life podcast, which the second episode is up right now, you can go ahead and listen to that. But you notice this doctor's name is Dr. Nielsen, which is a funny little gag there, playing off Nielsen ratings and everything like that. So I thought that was a nice little nod. That could be us overanalyzing, but if not, pretty funny.
No, I think that makes sense to me. Like, it's television, of course, Nielsen
Yeah.
ratings, right?
So we talked about how these episodes have each had 2 or 3 moments where things start to like break down. There's something weird going on. Something's off about this reality. This episode definitely featured more moments like that, as we saw. I mean, within the first few minutes of the episode, you see her going from trimming the bushes there to cutting right into this cinder block wall, which, I mean, weird for several reasons. Vision points it out to him, and he just continues to do it.
Yeah.
And 2, I feel like this hedge trimmer probably shouldn't be able to cut through cinder block like that. That seems a little odd.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So yeah, they really didn't waste any time in, again, breaking through this reality and letting us know something's off here.
Yeah.
Speaking of Wanda's pregnancy, which we just found out, in the end of the last episode, it's pointed out in the beginning of this episode that she's 4 months pregnant, even though it was only 12 hours. And then Vision notices shortly thereafter that it's now at 6 months.
Great.
And when she feels a kick, he realizes that they're at 6 months now, and points out, he makes the joke, "I thought I had super speed," which is a clever little joke there, sort of subtly referencing one of Wanda's children from the comics, which we'll get into in a little bit. They then get into this argument here over what to name. If they have a boy, Vision wants to use the name Billy, and Wanda wants to go with Tommy. Again, a nod to their children Wanda's children in the comics.
Okay.
Have you? I mean, I know you haven't read a ton of Marvel comics or anything, but were you aware of her children? Anything about them?
Just aside from Wiccan, does she have other children besides Wiccan and Speed?
No, it's just these two.
Okay.
I was just
Yeah, so I was aware of them, but I didn't realize they had more normal names.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't get too much into their history, but they have a very, very complicated comic past. So Wanda starts to she's having Braxton Hicks contractions, right? As Vision makes it painfully clear as he's reading through the book. And that is causing her to lose control of her powers, and she causes a blackout. And as things start to go haywire, they react and they strike this pose, which a lot of people, a lot of Marvel fans pointed out is very similar to a comic book cover of Vision and the Scarlet Witch, which I'll show right here.
Oh wow.
I mean, to me, it's a little bit of a stretch. They're in somewhat similar poses, but like the arms, I mean, it could be going for that. But I thought that was interesting. I mean, they're obviously drawing from a lot of different comic book stories that these characters have gone through in the past. Obviously, you go to Vision and Scarlet Witch as probably the main, not as far as the story goes, but just with these two characters being the main characters, a good place to start at least. So makes sense. They would go to this first issue for that inspiration there. That brings us, I think, to that ad that we were talking about a little bit, and that would be Hydra.
I did want to point out, I thought it was funny that we realized Phil and Dottie are together, and
oh yeah,
she asks if the earrings make her look fat, and then everything goes dark, and he's like, "Thank God." I just thought that was funny. Had to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, that was a really
funny. But yes, the Hydra soak.
That moment though too does build on that character of Dottie being this sort of scary control freak, right? Like her husband's like borderline afraid of her. So yeah. So yeah, we get into this week's ad, which was for Hydra Soak, and to me, this one didn't immediately strike me as like being this hidden Easter egg, sort of hidden message kind of thing, until I watched it a few more times and heard some other theories and stuff like that. So did you have any thoughts on this ad before I get into it?
The only thing that the very beginning when she's in the tub first relaxing, it made me think of that opening scene in Agents of S.W.O.R.D. Like the only episode I watched was the very first episode of Agents of S.W.O.R.D. and it reminded me of when, or maybe not opening scene, but when Phil Coulson is waking up. I don't know. That's the connection I made, but otherwise, no. I was very confused by this. Didn't have anything to pull from my knowledge.
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned Agents of S.W.O.R.D., and I will pull up this comment here as well. Coulson mentioned mind-altering soap in Agents of S.W.O.R.D., and yeah, that was exactly what I was going to get into.
So the one moment that I watched was a good thing that I watched.
So in, I believe it was season 4 of Agents of S.W.O.R.D., they did a whole story arc where they were all in a fake reality, more or less, called The Framework, where everything was being run by Hydra. And Coulson, who is a teacher who doesn't realize, that he's in a fake reality, is explaining to Daisy that Hydra is using soap, mind-controlling soap, to control everybody. But he's good now because he started making his own soap. So it was sort of a gag thrown in there just to show, like, Coulson's crazy right now. But yeah, kind of funny. I don't know that was the direction they intentionally went, but yeah, it's a nice little nod to Agents of S.W.O.R.D., which is something that is mostly disconnected from the MCU. So it's cool to kind of pull that in there a little bit. Whether or not that was their intent, I don't know, but a cool connection to make. Another theory I heard is that Hydra Soak, as you can see in a perfect blue cube here, sort of represents Tesseract. Mm-hmm. They do mention letting it transport you to another place. So the Space Stone sort of makes sense there. Again, I was trying to use that and formulate a bigger theory of like maybe the commercials represent the stones. We had the Strucker one that could represent the Time Stone. Mm-hmm. Then I was like, the toaster is the Soul Stone. I don't know where that one comes in. So that theory kind of went out pretty fast.
It might. Who knows? Maybe it'll resurface later on. We'll get a new episode title and be like, yes.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have more than 6 episodes too. So who knows? There could be more than just the Infinity Stones. I'm not sure. Any other thoughts on the ad before I move on?
I'm just curious, does goddess mean anything?
That
word.
I mean, yeah, I think find the goddess within could just be in reference to Wanda, using her full powers, maybe. I'm not sure if that's what they were going for there, but makes sense. I did see some fans talking about maybe this is a reference to Asgard and, with Natalie Portman becoming the new Thor, maybe this is referencing that. That seems like a stretch to me, but who knows? This could go anywhere, really. So a lot of different directions. So as we move on, Geraldine becomes a very big part of this episode when she comes in as Vision runs off to find the doctor. Geraldine comes in and interrupts all the craziness that's going on as Wanda is going into labor and everything. She's, again, losing control of her powers. Everything's starting to go haywire. And they go through this really funny process where she's trying to hide her pregnancy and, putting on coats and using the fruit bowl, like we mentioned, the pop figure, which was really funny, really well done. They really push Geraldine as a main character in this sitcom now, right? Like she acts as though she's Wanda's best friend, allowing herself into the home and kind of just overstaying her welcome.
Best friend / nosy neighbor, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like there's definitely like a friendship element to it, but also, yeah, it felt like the token neighbor who's like, oh, you're here again.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they do this the really funny gag with this stork as well, where the stork, Wanda's trying to keep Geraldine from noticing the stork. I feel like she probably could have just played it off, okay, a bird flew into our home, but she wanted to really make sure she's hiding their abilities. So conjuring a stork, I guess, would throw a neighbor off. So they go through this really funny bit, especially where the stork is trying to eat the fish on her pants. Thought that was really clever. Geraldine is telling a story about her job, her temp job, where she's working at an ad agency, and she tells a story about Gravitios, which I thought she specifically mentions it as the cereal with the little marshmallow moon men in it. Could be a reference to S.W.O.R.D. S.W.O.R.D. in the comics deals with outer space and alien invasions and stuff like that. So, and then obviously we'll get into more of it, but Geraldine has some ties. Again, Geraldine has some ties to S.W.O.R.D. So maybe there's a connection there. So after we get through all of the craziness with the stork and Geraldine and everything, Wanda does give birth to twins. And they have this really sweet moment where Vision, names the first one Tommy, and then they have the second one, they name him Billy. The names of Wiccan and Speed in the comics, I'll get into their history a little bit here. Wiccan is Billy Kaplan, and Speed is Tommy Shepard. So they did use those real names there. Now, they are created in a fake reality in the comics. Then they exist in the real world, but then they don't. There's a lot of weird things happening. They get reincarnated into the bodies of two already existing children who are Billy Kaplan and Tommy Shepard. It's a long, crazy story. I doubt the MCU follows that exactly. Who knows? we don't know where this is going to go. To be honest, I'm curious what you think is going to happen with the twins by the end of this show. If you were to just throw out a guess, any ideas?
Yeah, I'm thinking that just like everything else in Wanda's life, she's going to get to connect with them. We'll see them grow a little bit if we're continuing with this decade, each decade. And then there's going to be some sacrifice, there's some kidnapping or something, or some, maybe not kidnapping, but yeah, like teleportation to another dimension, multiverse. So I think that I'm thinking they'll be taken from her.
Yeah, I would agree with you. My guess is this reality falls apart, and that includes the twins, just based on stuff that's happened in the comics. Again, this could go 100 different ways, and the MCU does seem to be building towards the Young Avengers. Wiccan and Speed are both members of the Young Avengers. We do already have Cassie Lang, and we're getting Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye series. So there's a lot of things that that could happen here. Maybe they end up going in that direction. I would guess, though, that these twins end up getting erased. Everybody's loving right now this funny, heartwarming sitcom series that we've got. It's going to get dark, so be ready for that.
Yes.
What else did we have here? The Doctor does mention, as Vision is escorting the Doctor out, he's getting ready to go on his vacation, but decides to cancel it sort of out of nowhere, and says small towns are so hard to escape. And that sort of gives Vision some pause. I mean, it is a weird line to say. So another weird moment happening there. Oh, and speaking of, I got to jump back a little bit because we kind of glossed over it. There was the big moment in episode 2 where we had the beekeeper coming out of the sewer, and everybody's favorite line so far, Wanda just saying no and rewinding everything. Very similar moment to that when Vision is pointing out that there's some weird stuff going on, more so than just their neighbors noticing, what they can do. And he's given this whole speech, and then the episode just cuts and jumps back to before he starts saying all that. Did you have any thoughts about that one? Because I thought that was a really, really cool scene.
It was a cool scene. I thought that something was wrong with the TV at first, but then every time you watch it, it happens. So, okay. Yeah, it seemed like that was a choice on Wanda's part to, like, let's not have that discussion. Let's move this into another more pleasant direction.
Yeah, I really like how, it shows too, again, how Wanda is in control here. She's slipping in some parts and things are starting to go wrong, but she can easily correct things to go the way that pleases her, even when it's not something she's doing. She's completely changing what Vision is saying here. So, again, just pulling more strings in this crazy reality where we don't really know exactly what's going on. So, as we mentioned, the doctor leaves, giving that weird line. Vision then notices too Agnes and Herbert gossiping off to the side there, where you can see Herbert still has that giant cut in the wall. So obviously something weird's going on. Vision decides to investigate, and they both seem a little bit off. Agnes decides to point out, or she asks if Geraldine's inside, and when Vision says yes, she points out that there's something off about Geraldine. She has no family, no husband, and no home. Given that she clearly doesn't fit into this community, something is different with this character. Whereas Agnes, who, by the way, this puts a hole in my Agnes is Agatha Harkness theory, because it seems like she does fit into this community. Maybe she is pulling some strings as well. I don't know, but we'll have to see where that goes. But it seems to make me think that she's just part of Wanda's projection. Well, we'll see. Wanda, back inside the house, Wanda and Geraldine are still there with the twins. Wanda sings a Sokovian lullaby, which was interesting. Again, going back to her ethnicity that doesn't get brought up much in the MCU. She also brings up the fact that she was a twin and that her brother's name was Pietro, and that sparks something in Geraldine. And she eventually brings up that Pietro was killed by Ultron, which then throws Wanda for a loop. I'm guessing because she, within this reality, I guess that wouldn't have happened, this being her perfect reality. And the fact that somebody else knows about that's a problem for Wanda.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was interesting how freely she offered that she was a twin. It wasn't like, oh, they weren't talking about family or anything. It was just she turned to Geraldine and she's like, I'm a twin. I thought that was interesting. I was just wondering if maybe, like you're saying, she in this, maybe it's not so much that in this reality it doesn't exist, but that she's like not focusing on all of that stuff that happened outside. And then, the fact that somebody else does know about it is like, wait, you must not even be from this reality then, if you know something that happened.
Right.
I don't know.
But no, the way you just said that too, I have to go back and watch it now, because did she say I was a twin, or does she say I'm a twin? Because if she's saying I'm a twin, that could be referencing the fact that maybe in her mind, in this reality, Pietro is still alive. So
I wrote I'm a twin, but okay. I might have been condensing it but I'm pretty sure it's I'm a twin.
I'm gonna have to go back and check that out, because that's interesting. That could lead to something completely different from anything that was on my radar. As Vision is starting to feel that something is off here, Herb starts to say about Geraldine, she came here because we're all, and he repeats it a couple times, but Agnes cuts him off and doesn't let him finish what he's about to say. That again, to me, is thinking that's part of Wanda's subconscious, trying to keep the secret, keep the community alive. Who knows? Again, so many variables here, could go a lot of different ways. But yeah, interesting scene there with the neighbors and Vision.
Yes.
So then, back in the house, Wanda notices this symbol on Geraldine's. I mean, now she's not really Geraldine anymore, I guess. On her necklace, the pendant she's wearing. Again, the S.W.O.R.D logo, we've seen it in every episode so far. Saw it a couple times in the last episode on the helicopter, on the beekeeper. Wanda has seen it herself a few times now, and she's starting to realize something's wrong about it. So obviously she knows now something is wrong with Geraldine. And this is where the mood like completely shifts. Everything starts to go from this happy, sitcom to, it starts to get a little bit creepy. Like the music starts to feel creepy, and Wanda's face is very sort of stoic and, just a little bit off. And Vision comes back into the house, and you see Wanda standing over the twins with this sort of just menacing look on her face. And she mentions that Geraldine had to run off. Vision obviously knows something is up. He was just standing in the front yard. Geraldine didn't leave. So something happened, and then it's revealed that, and we get this shot that we've seen in the trailer. She was thrown out of this reality, at least as far as what we can tell right now. That's what happened. Wanda threw her out of this sitcom reality back into what looks to be the real world, as you can tell by the change in aspect ratio. I like how they do that.
Me too.
Whenever they jump back out. Here we have a helpful comment here from Daniel. She says, "I'm a twin, but I had a brother." So okay, so maybe not moving towards a return of Quicksilver here. But so any thoughts about this scene where Geraldine, now I guess Monica, was thrown back out into reality?
I thought it was interesting how you could see her coming through almost like that force field or the projection, and then she had that like red swirls around her, like definitely proving that yes, this was Wanda's power, that at least to me, like this was Wanda's power that forced her out of there. It wasn't S.W.O.R.D like pulling her out because they could detect something's wrong.
Right. And you can see that too by the reaction from everybody around as she gets thrown out into what looks to be a military base, and they all react as if there's some sort of major thing happening here. They don't know what could have just been thrown out of some other reality. Could be some sort of threat. But as they find Monica on the ground here, that's how the episode comes to a close. I do want to point out the song that they are playing at the end of this episode, "Daydream Believer" by the Monkees. Such a smart song choice, I thought. Kyle brought this up first, actually, on the Zacks of Life podcast, and we talked about it a little bit there. But really, really interesting song choice. There's an alarm clock, representing waking up from that fake reality. Some of the lyrics too that I want to bring up real quick. "You once thought of me as a white knight on his steed. Now you know how happy I can be." Represents Wanda to a T there. She's this Avenger. She's a hero. And now she's created this reality to make herself happy, and might have some consequences on the outside, though. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. So I thought that was really cool. That might be overanalyzing again, but in my mind, at least, they did that on purpose, and really, really smart song choice.
I think so too. It was even featured in the trailers, or I guess the second trailer, and I don't know how many times I watched that over, but I'm like, oh, this is just so good. And I loved how it was a little distorted and everything. Like it just took this, I don't know, fun kind of cheery song and just made it into something a little disturbing. I loved that choice. So I'm glad to see that it made the show.
Yeah, totally agree. Another interesting note here from Daniel. Her clothes don't change when she's thrown from this 70s sitcom reality back into the real world. So she was wearing that outfit. Don't know how what are the rules of jumping from reality to reality? I don't know. we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure we'll find out by the end of this series, and probably more in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness as well.
Yes, indeed.
So, any other closing thoughts on this episode? Anything we that I skipped past or we missed?
I thought it was. I don't know what it's like when water actually breaks, but I always feel like on TV it's probably a little bit more dramatic than what actually happens in real life. So I love that they went like way dramatic and it was just raining throughout the entire house. I thought that was fun. And then also I thought it was interesting that the entire episode, except for when Vision gets the doctor, is all at the house. Whereas in the first one, we had Vision at work for a little bit, and then they were back at the house. And then, of course, there was a lot of places that they visited in the second episode, but this was just all at the house.
Yeah, true. I didn't really think about that. Like you said, there's the quick scene where Vision is picking up the doctor, but aside from that, yeah, everything happening right at their home. Is that a way of saying things are getting a little closer to home? Is that what they're implying there? I don't know. Again, bit of a stretch. So yeah, that's it for our breakdown of the third episode. I can't wait to get this fourth episode because, again, but the week leading up to WandaVision, I got to see the first 3 episodes. I have been waiting for 3 weeks now, or almost 3 weeks, to get a new episode. I cannot wait to see this one. And now I don't have to worry about spoiling anything anymore.
Right, there you go. Yeah, we're all coming into this at the same time now.
Yeah. So we'll be back later today, not Bekah and I, but the rest of the LP team. Parks Talk Live will be happening at 4 p.m. today, and then the LP Movie Club tonight at 7:30 p.m. So join us for that. And for more Marvel news, again, you can check out the second episode of the Zacks of Life podcast with Kyle and I. And if you're a fan of Marvel Comics, check out Marvel Time on Wednesday at 4 p.m. And aside from that, we'll see you next week to break down the next episode of WandaVision. Bye.